Now, sir, we'll move on to the next session. Next session is by Avneet or Babbar ma'am. I hope she's there. Sumita ma'am.
A very good evening, ma'am. I'm here.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good evening,
Uh,
Avneet. Good evening.
Good evening. Shall I start,
Yes.
ma'am?
No, ma'am. First, let me introduce you.
Okay,
First, people
okay,
should know you.
okay, ma'am.
Avneet Kaur Babbar ma'am. She's PGT Biology, BVP Mehta Vidyalaya, New Delhi. She has an experience of over 7 years. She's a biology teacher. And then she oversees portfolios such as SQAF and action research and is part of several school committees. She is a key resource person for faculty development initiatives, showcasing her dedication to professional growth. She also has few publications to her name in the field of education and cancer research. She is actively engaged in the educational sphere. She continuously seeks to enhance her knowledge and stay updated with the latest advancements. Ma'am embodies dedication and passion in enriching educational experiences. I welcome you, ma'am. I welcome you for the session.
Thank you so much, Dipali, ma'am. Ma'am, I would like to share the screen. Is the permission there?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I share the screen? Okay.
Sumita, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am, you can share the screen.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. Good evening, all of you. I am Avneet from Bhavan's Mehta Vidyalaya, and I will be discussing about SQAAF. Earlier, it was SQAA, but recently the F for framework has also been added. SQA stands for School Quality Assessment and Assurance. These are basically some set parameters which are like standard operating procedures for a school to function well, which, if they are taken, the assessment is taken from time to time, it will ensure a quality standardized assessment and will give assurance of the school functioning in a standardized manner as per the learning standards. Now, before I would just like to share one circular before I start with this session. Just a second, ma'am. Is my screen visible? Is this circular visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Yes. As of 24th March 2023, it is mandatory for every school, whether it is a new school, it is a school whose affiliation has expired or is about to expire, or they are applying for extension. It is mandatory for every school to undertake this assessment year on year basis. It started last year, and every academic session, like if you see this circular, here in last point, it is written that all the affiliated schools should undertake this self-assessment on the SQAA portal every year between 1st April, that is actually when our academic session starts, till 31st December of that year. Earlier, this bracket was from 1st April to 30th June last year, but because it was a new framework, a new parameter of assessment, so several schools had requested CBSE to give them extension because there were many ifs and buts and how to do this assessment and what all has to be taken care, because there are a lot of documents. Most of the work already a good functioning school would be doing, but it is like a standardized checklist which will help the school to function better and improve on a regular basis. Year on year growth can be very well projected. So this assessment is mandatory. I'm sure someone in your school, some committee must be deputed to take on this assessment. If not, then please get it done because it is mandatory for every school now. It starts from 1st April of the academic session up till 31st December of that year. Okay, now with this, I would like to begin my presentation. SQAA, School Quality Assessment and Assurance Framework. When I talk about framework, it is a booklet. This is the booklet that is available on the website of Saras. And Saras's school affiliation re-engineered automated system. It is again another one of the initiatives of CBSE wherein different protocols like OSS, UDICE, along with SQAAF have been listed so that schools can update their information, they can carry out the assessment, and they can carry out the required affiliation or extension or registering a new school. So this is the manual. It is available on the website of CBSE. I will share the resources also in between the presentation. This manual has to be followed thoroughly. It has to be studied by heart. It has to be understood before the assessment can begin. Okay, now I'll start with the presentation. Okay, now SQAAF framework is an exhaustive, implementable, and objective self-assessment tool. It is self-assessment because the school itself will be assessing it on the different parameters or benchmark that CBSE has decided. Because it is self-assessment, so we know where we are standing,
मेरे को
where
ध्यान
we
नहीं
are
आ रहा
improving,
किसको मैंने वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के लिए बोला था.
and it is benchmarked by best global standards. It would reassure the stakeholders, like there are four stakeholders in any school. There are the teachers, there are the school administration, there are the parents, and the students. All the stakeholders will be reassured that the school aspires for continual improvement because this assessment has to be taken up every year. So every year we'll be trying as or aspiring to at least reach our previous score and then improve, have an improvement plan, a vision, but as to how we can move on from here or how we can improve our score in a particular domain or a subdomain category. And this will lead to achievement of desired student learning outcomes. अब HPC आ गया, holistic progress card आ गई है, so everything has to be 360. हम सिर्फ academics में नहीं जा सकते, हम सिर्फ co-curricular में नहीं जा सकते, हम सिर्फ extra curricular में नहीं जा सकते, हम सिर्फ infrastructure बहुत अच्छा but पढ़ाई नहीं है या activities नहीं है. So everything has to be made 360. All the parameters which are required to achieve the desired learning outcomes for a student, they have been taken care in this framework. And it is a continual process of self-assessment. If it is it would be done year on year, every year by the set team members, so they know where the how and at what timeline the school is improving and how the pace is there. Now, this is in the manual itself that the vision of SQA is to provide quality education to students through standardized instruments for self-evaluation, external assessment, and benchmark. Actually, last year when this framework was introduced for assessment, the framework was live since 2021, but the manual since then has been updated 3 times. And the portal became functional in the year 2022, and assessment started from 23. So there has been 3 manuals that have been changed, and the final one, it has about 50 to 60 more pages added. And in the circular that we had received last year, it was mentioned that as it is 95% of the schools won't be assessed because if genuine assessments are taken, so it's not required to cross check if a school is giving 4 on 4 at every level or 1 on 1, have not read the required documents and they are just over assessing themselves or under assessing themselves below the standards also which are minimum required for a school to function. Only 3 to 5% of schools would be asked for assessment, and for which the assessing team would give them ample time to have the annexure of proof, have the listing of evidences, prepare the file work. So this, it is required that genuine assessment is done, because if 1 year we are assessing ourselves at a very higher mark and next year we are not able to meet that mark, so it may also lead to downgrading the marks or the points that have been done through the assessment. The mission of SQAF is to promote interconnectedness among the stakeholders. As you will see the manual or you will undertake the assessment, we'll understand that all the stakeholders are connected. I'll show the domains and how this assessment is done. All the stakeholders, whether they are teachers, whether they are students, whether they are parents or the administration, the community, the alumni, everybody, everyone has been given their own parameters in this assessment to support school system of ongoing research development and to approve the achievement of student learning outcome. It also inspires schools to review and reflect. For any process to function, it is important that feed forward and feedback exercises are done. They are done in this SQA framework. It promotes student-centric, non-discriminatory curriculum, which prepares the students to be confident, to be connected, and to be lifelong learner, as is mentioned in NEP 2020. It also stimulates the school to reflect, review, assess, and create their institutions as learning organizations that are continuously growing and evolving. Obviously, if we are to take the assessment every year, it will be a continuous process. The reflection, the feed forward, and feedback will be a continual process. It will help us to evolve on an year or year basis on the developmental continuum. It fosters the culture of openness, transparency, and objectivity. These checklists or the subdomains or the benchmark standards that are mentioned in SQAA, they are measurable. They are like smart outcomes that would be achieved if those are followed. So they are measurable, they are highly objective in self-assessment, peer review, and external assessment. And it also empowers the school to be continually involved in systematic self-assessment, which has an explicit purpose of improving the quality of student experiences and their standards of attainment. So this is again the fine line objective that reflect and review I've already discussed. Whatever data has been assimilated, it can be used to respond proactively to the changing paradigms of education. As I mentioned that already there have been 3 revisions in the manual of SQAF. That means the paradigm of education is ever evolving. It's always dynamic. So this data can be used and will be used to respond to the changing paradigms or to the dynamics of education that are ever evolving. As we see, AI has also entered into our sphere now. So a lot of things are changing. Skill education is being upheld by the government, by the Ministry of Education at school level also. And even in SQAF, there has been a dedicated percentage of benchmark which have been allotted to skill education. It will create an enabling environment in the school for the achievement of student learning outcomes. Again, if we see, the center is student learning and the outcomes that are achieved. So student at the center and everything that is required to help the child in its overall development. Establish an inclusive schools with purposeful learning culture, inclusivity, develop individual and collective responsibility, accountability in ensuring the achievement of the student learning outcome, assess and endorse themselves as learning organization to meet the established standards, and devise strategies to become incubators of innovation. Many benchmarks of SQAF, they deal with how and at what pace the school is inculcating projects which are showing innovation of some kind. Is it only the same cut, copy, paste work that is happening since years? Or there is some way types of incubation, or like we have hubs of learning, are schools collaborating and creating something which is, enhancing student learning experience, experiential learning, and so on. So the approach and impact of SQAF, it helps in empowerment of leaders. It is holistic. It is self-assessment. It focuses on student learning outcomes by application of those benchmarking standards. It is non-threatening because there is a time, good 9 months are being given every year for a school to assess themselves, to prepare an improvement plan and evolve at their own pace. So it is not a threatening type of assessment कि आपको 100 on 100 लाना ही है या आपको minimum 90 लाना ही है. Wherever you stand, next assessment should show some improvement, some sort of dynamic change in your school in those particular domains. Then it is self-explanatory framework. The framework is in very simple language. It is clear, it is crisp. We don't need any extra vocab to understand it. And even so, if there are some technical vocabulary used. It is mentioned, it is very well given under glossary in the manual. I'll just show you after the presentation. It shows adaptability. The benchmarks or the standards are easy to adapt. It makes the school confident and better equipped. It is showing continual improvement because every year if something will be done, some standards will be set, then school will show an environment which is creating and enabling learning and standardization. All the schools which are under CBSE will be judged, will be scored on standard parameters, standard benchmark, which are same for all. Whether it's a government sector school, whether it's a private school, whether it's school in a village or a suburb, but it is under CBSE, it has to be assessed under the same parameter, that is by SQAA. Now, this is the organogram of SQAA. So, every assessment is divided into domains. There are 7 domains in SQAA. Domains are divided into subdomains. And then under each subdomain, there are some standard. Under those standard, there are some guiding principles, some benchmarking standards that has to be ticked, and assessment rubrics. I'll just show you the manual. Um, is my screen visible? Is this presentation visible? Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. I'll just give you an example of how this works. This is the manual that is there on the CBSE site. Now, if I come to the first domain, domain 1 is curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment performance indicators. This is the broader heading, and domain 1 accounts for almost 40% of entire SQAA assessment. Under subdomain 1.1, there is a sub-subdomain 111, which is about principal and teachers are familiar with the spirit and content of NCF and recommendations of NEP. Now, every domain is divided into subdomain or sub-subdomain. Under those sub-subdomains, there are 4 levels. Level 1 is the inceptive level. Level 2 is the transient level. Level 3 is the stable level. And at level 4, if we rate ourselves, then we are dynamic evolving. Now, when we are starting with the scoring on the portal, all these bullets like 2 to 4 and these 12 bullets will be sequenced on the website with a checkbox. Now, if I start scoring, I will read, okay, school readers have read NEP and NCF documents. Yes, every school does that. I will start ticking these standards in the portal. And as I tick below this, there are some suggestive supportive documents that can be reviewed by the school. For example, if I have ticked the parameters and I am coming on level 2, for example. So for level 1 and 2, because I am at level 2, it is understood that I would definitely have cleared level 1. So when I come to the supportive documents, these are the documents for level 1 and these are for level 2. So when I say I'm on level 2, these entire documents, if I start from school curriculum till here, these 2 columns, they should be with me to support my assessment. Is this clear? Is this understood by everyone? Because we also had problem in the terms of evidences. If I am on level 2, then all the evidences that are listed in level 1 and level 2 should be with me. For example, there might be some parameter that I have ticked in level 3, but I don't have the evidence. So that can come in my improvement plan, or if I am taking assessment in April, I can, consult with my committee members that, okay, we will submit the assessment in July. Till then, we can complete these 3 or 4 evidences which are lacking. And once we are done with that, then we will rate ourselves at a higher level and our evidences will be ready. So this is how the scoring will happen and how the assessment will be done. Ma'am, somebody's mic is on. So here all the guiding principles and policies which are mentioned in the manual, they have to be followed. The performance indicators, automatically as we start clicking them, the indicators will be mentioned there that we are on level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. And similarly, the evidences and records that are mentioned in the manual, that have to be procured, they have to be maintained in case there is physical inspection. As of now, on the website, we don't have to upload anything. We just have to take the assessment and we have to prepare an improvement plan. If the school is asked about the assessment that yes, we have been shortlisted for SQAA physical verification, then the documents, they have to be filed, they have to be maintained. We will be given a link to upload also that yes, these are, if this is the standard we are rating ourselves, so these are the supporting documents. So this has to be done as in when the need arises. Then there are 7 domains in the SQAA framework. First is curriculum and pedagogy. Second is infrastructure, its adequacy, functionality, and aesthetics. When I talk about infrastructure, a good amount of weightage has been given to inclusivity in terms of infrastructure. बहुत सारे schools ये बोलते हैं कि हमारे पास PWD बच्चे नहीं होते, तो वो वाले हम infrastructure या benches नहीं रखते. But if a school is claiming that it is inclusive, it should be accessible in every way, whether we have a student with physically handicapped condition or not. So there has been a mandate given in SQAF to ensure that your school is accessible by a child who has physical disability. Then the third domain is about human resources, about all the HR, teachers, administration, and their functioning, which every school has. Then inclusive practices, management and governance, leadership, and lastly, beneficiary satisfaction. All the beneficiary which are there in the school for a school to function properly, the parameters associated with their satisfaction are also mentioned. All these 7 domains, they are the key performance areas of the school. So they are not independent, they are interlinked. We know that because we cannot function, we cannot make a curriculum without the HR. There cannot be a functional school without leadership, without management governance. So all these domains, they are interlinked. They are interdependent, they but synergistic also. So all of them have to be taken care of. Then if I talk about subdomain, like they have taken example of the first domain, curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. So the subdomains in this main domain are curriculum planning, the teaching learning process, the student enrichment programs, mainstreaming physical education and sports. Sport education is also important in NEP. I hope everybody has read that. We all know that a lot of weightage has been given to sports, arts, work, skill education. So all of that has also been percolated well into the SCOAF manual. Then values and ethos, student performance, assessment of learning outcome, and feedback. Are the learning outcomes measurable? Are they actually assessing the knowledge, or are they actually mapping what has been taught? Is there a way to map the learning? All these parameters are mentioned in the domain. So based on the aforementioned subdomains of curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment, it may be inferred that subdomain have some sort of similarities. That means in a particular subdomain, or even if I talk about multiple domains together, some parameters will be common, like the 5334 or the skill subjects or innovation or hands-on experiential or the annual APP. All these are parallel, they are overlapping. They will be in several domains also and in several subdomains also. So when we are collecting the evidences, we can collect in one particular subdomain or domain, and then we can annexure it that similar evidence is in annexure number so and so, and it can be referred there. So there will be lot of similar evidences. There will be similar documents that have been asked as a evidence in some other domain also. Then I would like to show a file. Just a second. So when we are rating ourselves on the levels, so level 1 means that the system is at initial stage. It might be a new school or school that has just registered itself to be affiliated in CBSE. So it is an inceptive level. At level 2, see, this is also a possibility that the school might be at level 1 for at one domain and at level 4 for another domain. So it depends that where the school is standing in terms of different domains that have been listed in the SQAA. Level 2 is transient, that system is in early constructive years. Practices are generally corrective in nature. We try troubleshoot the methods, the pedagogies to improve. Level 3 is the stable level where the evidences of databases of improvement processes are there. I'm sure every one of us, we do result analysis, we do some sort of action research every now and then in our teaching also. So there is some sort of database. When the pedagogy is quantitative along with qualitative, maximum of the time we try for more qualitative analysis. But if we are able to quantify our teaching, we are able to quantify the learning, then it is at a more higher level of student centric learning outcome achievement. So similarly, if our school assessment in any way, if it has more data, there is some quantification, then it is aligning towards a better improvement channel. System is defined and documented. As I just said, there should be some sort of quantification and documentation. People are aware of their roles in the institution and practicing it. And practices are preventive and corrective because now we know what is not working for us. So we might be preventing that from committing errors which are not favorable or which might not be favorable for the stakeholders. And we are correcting it. Last is level 4, which is the highest level as per the score. It is dynamic and evolving. It demonstrates strong benchmark, defined and documented processes. As you will take the assessment, it will be very, very clear that जैसे जैसे हम एक से दूसरे लेवल पे इम्प्रूव कर रहे हैं, सेकंड से थर्ड पे आ रहे हैं, थर्ड से फोर्थ पे आ रहे हैं, as we move ahead, we will see that lot of systematic changes, standardized SOPs, policies, working channels have been done, have been made in that process over those year-on-year assessments that we are doing. So governance and leadership is exhibited. There is accountability, there is responsibility, there is self-evaluation, and there is improvement planning. So these are the 4 performance indicators. Level 4 is the highest. It depicts the best practices carrying a weightage of 4. In order to get a score of 4, the performance indicator at other 3 must be true or appropriate for the school. This is very much important. Just for the sake of getting 4 on 4 in that particular indicator, the checklist should not be done. Whatever we can claim or we can support, we can defend with our practices, with our uh, protocols or standards that we are following in the school, that should be ticked or mentioned in the SWOT assessment. Also, the practices followed by the school should reflect systems approach to quality management. So this was about the levels that are there in SWOT, and these are the 7 domains. As you can see, curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment, it alone carries 40% weightage of the entire assessment scenario. And all other domain, all remaining 6 are carrying 10%. 10 for infra, 10 for HR, inclusive, management, leadership, and beneficiary satisfaction. So curriculum and pedagogy is an important aspect. It is a longer domain, a very lengthy one. It takes time. So then score against each level. Performance levels are specified ranging from 4-point scale. I had just shared that PDF. And in order to get score of 4, we just discussed that all 3 levels, they must be true or appropriate. That means अगर आप 4 पे आ रहे हो तो आप सारे A to Z जितने भी proofs mentioned है, it should be there. Record and evidence. Against each standard, there are set of records and evidences that have been specified that support that observable action or practices are happening in the school as per the requirement for the performance levels specified. So it is already mentioned, and in many places it is mentioned any other relevant document, because this list is not a conclusive one. There can be lot of documents that can support a particular benchmark standard. So, for example, one document can also be evidence for other domains. I have already discussed that. And schools are expected to upload and make evidence available only those documents that reflect planning, implementation, mentoring and monitoring practices, reflection, improvement plan in school processes leading to enhanced student learning outcome. Because the portal will be very heavy, it will be a higher bandwidth. So not more than 10 evidences per domain when asked, it should be uploaded. Then policy and reference document. Against each standard, there are some policies that are mentioned, like there will be HR policy, there will be inclusive policy, there will be a policy on sports, there will be a policy on curriculum planning. Every domain has lots and lots of policies that are mentioned, which are the acting force or the SOP behind that concerned standard. And because if a school is functioning, it will have some SOPs. So many, maximum of the SOPs would be already there with the school office department or the admin department. But yes, they have to be collected and kept and referred to again and again to check those benchmarking standards. The maturity level. Next is the maturity level. As we will rate ourselves, assess ourselves in the portal, we will automatically be given the level, the scoring that we are doing. If we are checking some benchmark, the score is automated. We cannot give ourselves 4 on 4 on our own. As and when we keep checking the benchmark, the score is automatically generated on the portal. These are the levels, these are the domains, and this is the overview. Now here the curriculum and pedagogy, I would like to actually use the updated one, since okay, this was fine. Now all these 7 domains are having some subdomains, like first has 7, infrastructure has 12, then 5, 5, 10, 3, 6, total 49 subdomains are there. And each subdomain is having some benchmarking standards. We will assess ourselves on those standards, and there will be total 84 benchmarking statements or standards. We will be scored according to this. So I would like to share some resources which are there on the internet. Now, if we have to take the assessment, there are 2 ways to reach the SQAA portal. But before that, I would like to all of you, those who are undertaking SQAA, and even for our own knowledge and realization of this framework, the CBSE academic unit, it conducted a total of 13 webinars last year, starting from August, I believe, on every domain. If you visit this YouTube page of CBSE academic unit, you can see there are these webinars on SCOF policy making, self-assessment, human resources, then systems thinking, inclusive practices, curriculum, lot of there. They conducted detailed webinars because this was a new framework. A lot of schools, including us also, we were having some roadblocks, where to assess, how to make the policy. So everything is mentioned here, that what type of evidences can be submitted, because a limit of only 10 documents have been given on the portal. So we have to be very sure and very crisp when we are submitting the assessment. Now, when we have to start the assessment, we can visit CBSE academic website. Everybody knows the website, cbseacademic.nic.in. On that, we have a tab here with SCOF. If I click on SCOF, it will lead to the Saras page. Here there is option for school login. As you log in, There are two options. Either you can log in using the OSS credentials, school affiliation number and OSS password and the CAPTCHA. As you press enter, you will reach the web page of SQAA. We had already done the assessment last year, so here we are having 2 years. If I click on 2023, then I cannot do any changes because I have already submitted the assessment. But if I come to 2024, we are just midway the self-assessment part. As you start the assessment, first it is important to note the self-learning material, which is this PDF that I was sharing with everyone. This is important. It is very, very crucial that we go through this document. We go through the videos that are there on the YouTube channel of CBSE. We understand the ifs and buts of the framework. How do we have to assess it? And only then I would like to suggest that this assessment be taken, because once you submit it, it cannot be undone. So you have to read the manual carefully so that you don't over assess or under assess your school. So once done that, we can start with the self-assessment. The page is loading, which I think, okay. Is my screen visible? Ma'am, is this screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, it's
Yes,
visible.
ma'am.
Okay. Now, actually, we are in the process of doing the assessment for this year. We have not submitted right now. We were just reassessing ours. So if I come to the first domain, that is curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment, I am just clicking on view because we have already done it. So if I come to curriculum planning, if I come to the first domain that I had discussed with all of you, so you can see that as per our standards, we are following all the benchmarks. As I click all these benchmarks, automatically the level comes here 4. अगर मैं इसमें से एक भी हटा दूंगी, मैं automatically level 3 पे हो जाऊंगी. तो आपको जो भी assessment carry out करनी है, these parameters should be in synergy with the parameters mentioned here. I would like to just go to the first domain. Okay. Like जो parameters यहाँ पे mentioned थे, which I had just discussed, you can see principals and teachers are familiar with the spirit of NCF and recommendation of NEP. If I come back here, this is the same subdomain. Principals and teachers are familiar with the spirit and content of NCF and NEP. So all these parameters which were listed in the manual, these bullet points, they are mentioned here in the assessment portal. So as I keep on checking, my score automatically comes here. It may be 1, it may be 2, it may be 3 or 4 as per my assessment. If I am submitting at 4, I will click save here and you will see a green tick coming. It is taking some time. See, data has been successfully saved. Now my score for level 1.1.1 is 4. That means as per SQAA standard, I should have all these documents with me as evidence. But जो मुझे submit करने हैं, I have to be watchful that which document will be a better presentation of the proof of my level indicated as per the assessment. So if I am at level 4, all these documents should be with me. But if I have to submit, if I have been asked to give the proof of the level, then I would prefer these because these are specifically given for level 4. So जिस भी लेवल पे आप आए, चाहे आप 3 पे आए, 2 पे आए, 1 पे आए, 4 पे आए, आपके पास होने वो सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स चाहिए. If you are on level 2, you should have documents of both 1 and 2. But if you are to submit, because there is a crunch that you cannot submit more than 10 per domain, and there are a lot of documents to be submitted because there are several subdomains and then subdomains. So be very watchful that if you have 20 or 25 documents that can be submitted as evidences, pick only the main ones. That can be a substantial proof of conduct of that particular benchmark standard. I hope I am clear with this. And one more thing, along with these assessment, if you come to part 2 of the manual, here, the part 2, This is the process of SQAA, that first the school will do the assessment, then there will be an developmental improvement plan, because we have to submit an improvement plan also. There might be some domains where I can come on 4, but there are 2, 3 benchmarks which I am not able to meet right now. I will prepare a plan of action that it will be my long-term goal, this will be my short-term goal, and then I will submit it. As you can see, all CBSE affiliated school will undertake a self-assessment against SCORP every year on the CBSE SCORP portal. So it is important. And once you are submitting an improvement plan, it should be implemented in that academic year. Then next, this is actually very detailed, very vivid, very clear manual. If it is read, it is very easy to understand. We review ourselves, then we reflect, we respond, and then we rate. This is the cycle that has to be followed. And this is the planning. You self-assess the steps and the planning. It has already been discussed. Every school should have a SCOF team or the CLT, core learning team. There should be these members should be present. Member from representative from school management, principal, one teacher from pre-primary, primary, middle, and secondary, one student from all the 4 levels, parent representative from each of the 4 levels, one teacher from co-curricular, school counselor, special educator, or health professional, one representative from school administration, and an IT staff. These are the minimum headcount that should be there in the SCOF team in the school. Then assessment by the school. As you do, you have to act and reflect upon your process. And I would just like to quickly take you to the scoring process. Here, each domain has some standards, number of standards. Each standard has a score and the weightage. I had mentioned that first domain has about 40% weightage because it has maximum number of standards. So percentage, as we are rated here, marks will be given, and out of 100 the percentage will be allotted. Total marks are 336 because there are 336 benchmark statements that have to be followed. This is all automated. We don't have to calculate anything. We just have to assess ourselves, and the score will be reflected on the scorecard once you submit it. Then this section, annexures and glossary, this is also equally important for school to understand. This checklist has to be checked, has to be tick mark, has to be internalized by the school. Lot of parameters again they are given. This is actually for making school safe and secure. It is a comprehensive checklist by CBSE. First criteria is school safety and security programs. All these parameters are given. So whether the standard is satisfactory, it needs further attention, not taken up yet, not applicable, and what remarks are there. So this should be taken whether assessment jab bhi kare. This is for school safety. So these should be undertaken. Then second is school building, grounds and facilities. Again, all the standard required parameters for a standardized functioning of the school. Again, there are the psychological safety and support, counselor support. Then we have health and physical safety. Then school transportation, support for Divyangjan, cyber safety and policy, orientation and training, induction, and orientation on POXO, JJ, cybersecurity, corporal, anti-narcotics act. All of these are very much important. These days, everything is vocal, everything is loud. So it is important to sensitize the staff, the school staff and teachers with these policies. It is very much important these days. So this checklist has to be taken up by the school, either before or after the assessment, but ये आपके पास होनी चाहिए. If at all physical assessment is done, so this will also be checked. Then constitution of school safety committee. This is mentioned. This is an important committee. So iski details को आपने mention करी नहीं है because again integrating learning, whatever checklist is required, it is mentioned. It can be read later on. Then again rating school for preparatory and middle age students. The parameter is there. Students किस तरीके से they are taken care of in the school at these age levels. This has to be mentioned here. Then data collection, and I think we are done. There is the school safety pledge, which is also mentioned somewhere in the assessment. Then PTA. Actually, they have given us the standardized parameters for some committees also. So it is also already mentioned in the manual. And then this is the template for improvement plan that has to be followed. It is a suggestive template. Apart from this, if the school wishes to add any other column, adding, not deleting, it can be done. So core domain, subdomain, performance indicator can be mentioned here. What level of maturity we are here? Like for example, अगर मैं किसी domain में level 1 पे हूँ, तो मेरा aspirational level might be 2 or 3. What is the area of improvement? Priority level क्या है? Low, medium, high. What is the proposed action that I am undertaking to achieve that level? The convener or the team responsible, the member, if there is a particular member responsible or there is dedicated team to do that, then, and timeline. It might be a short-term goal, it might be a long-term goal. We can say for 1 quarter or for 1 academic session or 2 months, 3 months, or biannual, anything, whichever suits you. So this also has to be prepared, and this is the scorecard. जो हम डोमेन्स में आप खुद को असेस कर रहे हैं वही स्कोर कार्ड, ये दिस इज जस्ट द फिजिकल फॉर्मेट. We don't have to make it. It will automatically be generated once you submit the score. This will be mentioned here. If someone wants to physically calculate it, यहाँ पे formula लगा के दिया हुआ है, but it's not required. You can get it once you submit your assessment on the portal. And this is the overall score which I have actually discussed before. And also they have mentioned glossary because a lot of technical terms have been used in the framework. So for clarity, for better comprehension of the benchmark standard, these terms have been very clearly explained in the manual itself. And apart from that, if there is still any confusion, the CBSE YouTube channel can be accessed. It's very detailed. The videos are 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Domains have been divided. So it can be watched, it can be studied, and doubts can be cleared. And on the portal also, there are few literatures that can be seen. Let me just go back. Okay. This is again some integration of SQAA with affiliation. It can be read. There was a circular on it. So if you come to the home page here, there are some circulars which have been given related to SQAA, about SQAA, the process, structure, domain, approach, the framework, the PDF, then the user guide, then the study material, co-learning team, curricular planning, integrated ACPP. All these can be accessed and appropriate assessment can be undertaken once the understanding of the literature is done. So that was all from my side, ma'am. I hope I did justice in explaining what SQAAF framework is. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Uh, Hello.
Any doubts, anyone? Anything you want to
Yes,
ask?
ma'am. Greetings, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Ma'am, actually, of course, CBSE has literally given a lot of, YouTube videos, but in my school, we as a team of teachers have been entrusted with the responsibility of the sixth domain, that is management and governance. Ma'am, when it was asked, once it was there in one of the subdomains to paste the vision statement in each and every corridor or the corners of the school, that has been easily done. But ma'am, I have an issue. What type of evidence will actually be comprising in the records of vision building exercise? What type of evidence, ma'am? Could you please specify? Vision building.
Have you checked the suggestive evidences which are given in the manual? Because
Ma'am,
sometimes some benchmarking statement might be slightly like it might be complex. जैसे आप कह रहे हो अभी जो आपने vision building exercise की बात करी,
vision
but
building, ma'am.
हाँ जी हाँ, उसी
Ma'am,
के
those,
corresponding common evidences ना उस domain के given होंगे manual में. It is not
yeah,
specific कि एक particular किसी benchmark के लिए होंगे. It might be common for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Can
My
you tell
question
me
was
the domain? Can you tell me the
ma'am, that
domain,
is
please?
6.1.1. That is management and governance, and the school
6
management policy should be in its place.
Just a second, ma'am. 6.1. And this 6.1.1, no? Okay.
Hmm.
Mhm.
In the evidence
611.
column, ma'am.
Okay, I'm just reached it. मैम आप कौन सा कह रहे थे? Just please repeat once again. The
Ma'am,
evidence जो आप कह रहे थे?
ma'am, that is 6.1
I've
point.
reached that.
Ma'am, you have reached over there, ma'am. Then you might be the first one, ma'am. The very first one. The whole management governance policy should be in its place. In
Okay,
the
आप
evidence column.
benchmark standard पे हो.
Vision and mission statement is guided by clear vision and mission statement, and the supporting evidences. The second bullet point, ma'am. Record of vision building exercises, ma'am. Like we have mini school almanac, we have mini school flag also over there that we have done. Ma'am, what type of evidence? Because it's never been clear in the vision building exercise whom we need to actually comprise. Will it be all the stakeholders?
Ma'am,
Will it be
actually
the
it depends on the vision of the school. Like अगर मैं हम भवंस की बात करते हैं तो it's about संस्कृति, right? हम लोग जब अपने evidences submit करेंगे तो we will
Mhm.
be more stressing on the evidences which are promoting that संस्कृति. जो
True, ma'am.
आपके स्कूल का विजन एंड मिशन है, आप उसी पे अलाइंड एविडेंसेस उसको फाइल अप
Huh,
कीजिए.
ma'am,
Because
mission
when
generally
assessment,
doesn't change, ma'am. Mission actually remains, but vision changes with every
राइट
school,
राइट,
ma'am,
सो वो
development
विजन,
plan.
हाँ जी,
When we
जो
are
भी
at
विजन
inception,
आपके स्कूल का है, आप उसी पे, बिकॉज समथिंग मस्ट हैव बीन डिस्कस्ड बिफोर स्टार्टिंग दैट विजन, कि अब इस साल ये विजन है या वील बी फॉलोइंग दीज पैरामीटर्स फॉर द स्कूल मिशन एंड विजन. सो व्हाट हैज बीन थॉट और व्हाट थॉट हैज बीन पुट बिहाइंड दैट सेटअप, आप उसी के अलाइंड डॉक्यूमेंट्स ही डिफेंड
Ma'am,
कीजिए. हाँ
just
जी.
I would like to ask one thing. It's about vision building. To whom actually, which stakeholder should be given the honors of it? It should be all the teachers, the students, the school management committee, and everybody. But it should be a documented meetings as an evidence, or what? That is, I actually needed to get
मैम
specified, ma'am.
समथिंग दैट इज एक्शनेबल. मीटिंग्स में तो हम एजेंडा फिक्स करते हैं, उस एजेंडा को एक्शनेबल आपने कैसे बनाया? आपने अगर अपनी स्कूल की जो भी विजन है, वट एवर अपडेट यू हैव डन इन द विजन,
How it has been
हाउ
built?
द हाउ आर यू बिल्डिंग इट? what
Okay.
activities that you will be doing to build it? Because जब भी वेरिफिकेशन होगी, जो आप एविडेंस सबमिट करोगे आपको उसको डिफेंड करना है, नॉट द अदर वे अराउंड. अगर फॉर योर स्कूल इफ सम पर्टिकुलर एक्टिविटी इज प्रमोटिंग द विजन or the mission that your school has, then that has to be updated. It will be different for all schools.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, Avneet, ma'am. Shall I ask one more question related to my
हाँ जी.
domain, ma'am?
Okay,
Avneet, ma'am,
ma'am.
I have one question, ma'am. There is an anecdotal record also, probably
हाँ
in
जी.
6.5 or 6.6 portfolio and anecdotal records.
Okay,
When it
ma'am.
comes to anecdotal records, we always, comes into a very heated argument, even in the staff meeting also. What should be provided into, not heated, but it's a brainstorming session. Rather, I should
Ma'am,
rephrase my word.
actually, we are ना keeping portfolio records for students. तो जितने भी
Ma'am,
anecdotes हैं ना, कुछ भी
वो सिर्फ
रिकॉर्ड हमें
बच्चों के ही
सबमिट करना
रहेंगे,
है.
मैम. That will be only related to student. Will it not be specifying anecdotal records of each and everything needs to be documented? For example, if something happens in the school related to a child, the council is not supposed to provide us anything. Will it be
मैम
only related to?
काउंसलर सी, वो तो मैम स्टूडेंट प्रोफाइल में हम लिखते हैं ना, कि
जी
बच्चा
मैम.
कोई अगर उसका कोई हैबिट फॉर्मिंग इशू है या फिर कुछ उसका बिहेवियर इशू है, कुछ अग्रेसिवनेस है, ये जो एक काउंसलर देगा वो फीडबैक अलग होगा, जो एक टीचर फीडबैक देगी वो अलग होगा. ऑल ऑफ दैट विल कम टुगेदर इन द पोर्टफोलियो ऑफ दैट चाइल्ड. वो उसके स्टूडेंट पोर्टफोलियो में
Anecdotal.
आ जाएंगे.
Ma'am, there are
हाँ,
two columns,
दैट
actually
विल.
two bullet points, anecdotal and just below it, there is a portfolio mention in SQAF.
मैम
Ma'am, I just would like to.
पोर्टफोलियो में जैसे हम अभी जो असेसमेंट करते हैं, जो 20 मार्क्स की असेसमेंट होती है, उसमें हम पोर्टफोलियो रिकॉर्ड में बच्चे की एक्टिविटीज, उसका कोई प्रोजेक्ट, ऐसी चीजें रखते हैं, अभी तक तो यही करते हैं।
जी मैम।
अगर उसका कोई एनेक्डोटल रिकॉर्ड करना है, इट माइट बी सम ऑफ हिज अचीवमेंट, जरूरी नहीं है कि बच्चे का कुछ काउंसलर इशू हमें हाईलाइट करना है, हम उसका कुछ अचीवमेंट भी हाईलाइट कर सकते हैं।
ऑफ
अगर
कोर्स मैम।
हाँ एग्जैक्टली, तो उस तरीके से आप वो रिकॉर्ड्स बना सकते हो। इट माइट बी
मैम
सम पार्टिसिपेशन, इट माइट बी सम any
achievements, it
achievement or
might be
any
the strength,
anything,
that is
anything
SWOT,
which is
SWOT,
which is
strength, weaknesses, opportunities,
anything,
strength.
anything,
Ma'am, I
any
was asking, I wanted to ask that, is it supposed to be carried from one class to another class? How does a child supposed to be behave in class one? How he is
मैम
behaving differently
द
in
ब्रीफ
class
ऑफ
two?
इट इज इन द स्टूडेंट डोसियर। हम भी जब अपने बच्चों का, अभी लाइक आई हैव 12th क्लास, सो व्हाट प्रोफाइल दैट आई हैव गॉट फ्रॉम द प्रीवियस क्लास, इट इज हैविंग रिकॉर्ड ऑफ लास्ट 4-5 years ऑल्सो, कि वो बच्चा इम्प्रूव कर रहा है, या उसका जो पर्सनालिटी है इस तरीके से इस डायरेक्शन में गया है, या उसका एकेडमिक इंटरेस्ट ऐसा गया है, या स्पोर्ट्स इंटरेस्ट ऐसा गया है। सो दैट ब्रीफ इज केप्ट इन स्टूडेंट रिकॉर्ड। ऑब्वियसली जब आपको एविडेंस देना है तो आप एक फॉर्मेट और उसके साथ एक फिल्ड फाइल दे सकते हो, नॉट
To
एवरीथिंग,
that.
बिकॉज इट विल बी
Um,
लॉट ऑफ
because
थिंग्स
we
इन
have been
दैट वे।
confused because our policy was management and governance and it was written
राइट,
anecdotal recording to
हाँ
that.
जी,
So I was, matlab we as a
इट
team,
इज
हाँ,
विद
are we
रिस्पेक्ट टू
supposed to
द
provide a
सब
management and
डोमेन।
governance and a total record, or are we supposed to just provide an
मैम
anecdotal record?
जब भी
Right.
आप असेसमेंट शुरू करेंगे ना, आपके सब डोमेन के ऊपर हेडिंग लिखी हो।
जी।
जैसे अगर आप
Yes, ma'am.
इंक्लूसिव
It's written.
प्रैक्टिसेस वाला करोगे, वहां पे एवरीथिंग विल बी विद रिस्पेक्ट टू इंक्लूसिविटी। वहां पे बहुत सारे ऐसे पैरामीटर्स हमें दिखे थे जो हम नॉर्मल स्टूडेंट पे भी असेस कर सकते हैं, बट अंडर दैट डोमेन एवरीथिंग हैज टू बी डन कीपिंग इन माइंड CWSN और एनी अदर दिव्यांगजन और
Mm-hmm.
एनी अदर चाइल्ड जो इंक्लूजन के ब्रैकेट में आ रहा है। तो जो
Mm-hmm.
डोमेन ऊपर सब डोमेन की जो लाइन लिखी हुई है, जैसे 6.5.1 एनीथिंग, उसके
Mm-hmm.
रेफरेंस में आप उसको असेस करके फिर रिक्वायर्ड डॉक्यूमेंट्स आप इकट्ठे करके इंडेक्सिंग करो।
Okay, ma'am.
अभी तक तो यही है, बाकी दे कीप
No,
ऑन
no, ma'am.
चेंजिंग,
But
इट इज
we are
वेरी
also, ma'am,
डायनामिक।
I can understand, it's
राइट,
such a Herculean task. We all are in the phase of learning when it comes to SQF. Might be the government
राइट,
has given a lot of flexible time, but it keeps a lot of pondering and the
राइट,
thought process and the introspection. I always understand. And
बट
thank you
इट्स अ
so
वेरी
much.
डायनामिक फ्रेमवर्क एंड इफ इट्स डन ईयर ऑन ईयर इट विल बी रिजल्ट ओरिएंटेड, आई फील।
Of course, ma'am. Ma'am, I know that I'm very disturbing, but ma'am, you said at the start that we should not be underassessing ourselves and overassessing ourselves. So it is okay to remain at always a stable level.
मैम इट डिपेंड्स, राइट। जैसे हम भी जब असेसमेंट कर रहे हैं तो काफी जगह हम लेवल 4 पे आ रहे हैं, बट कुछ जगह वी आर कमिंग ऑन 2, वी आर कमिंग ऑन 1। जैसे अगर आपने विद्यांजलि वाला देखा होगा, आई डोंट थिंक कि मेनी स्कूल्स नो अबाउट विद्यांजलि, सो
नहीं
वी आर
जानते।
प्लानिंग टू रजिस्टर ऑन विद्यांजलि पोर्टल दिस ईयर। तो ये धीरे धीरे होगा, लाइक कुछ में हम 4 पे ही होंगे, बट दे
अच्छा,
हैव मेंशन्ड सम बेंचमार्क्स जो हमने सुने भी नहीं थे।
हाँ, true,
तो
true, true.
इसीलिए वो इम्प्रूवमेंट प्लान में ही आएगा कि नेक्स्ट
जी।
ईयर हमने वहां से शुरू किया और अब हम लेवल 2 पे आ गए, इस
And
तरीके से।
Avneet, ma'am, thank you so much. A
थैंक यू मैम,
wonderful
थैंक
session,
यू,
ma'am, from the core
थैंक यू,
of my heart.
थैंक यू अनुकी मैम, थैंक यू,
So with
थैंक
this
यू
we come
दीपाली
to the
मैम।
end. With this we come to the end of the session. Ma'am, you answered all the questions that ma'am asked you, and I think it was nice workshop. So here we have Reema Sharma from Panchkula Vidyalaya. She is going to extend the formal vote of thanks. Reema Sharma, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. A warm namaste to all present here. On behalf of all the members of the group, I'm glad to express my vote of thanks to Dr. Dipali Pradhan and Ms. Avneet Kaur Babbar. My sincere thanks to Dr. Dipali for explaining to us in detail the components of linguistics and the linguistic approaches to be adopted in our teaching methodologies so that our children get a command over the English language. And I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Avneet Kaur Babbar for enlightening us about SQAA, School Quality Assessment and Insurance, which in alignment with NEP is a commitment by CBSE. Thank you, ma'am, for explaining to us the comprehensive and detailed assessment system in such an easy manner. Thank you so much, ma'am.
थैंक यू मैम, थैंक यू सर।